The cold January wind cut through Boston streets like a blade, but Elena Rossi barely felt the chill that penetrated through her black coat. Her hands trembled as she held the envelope she had found under the door of her small flower shop in the North End. Inside, a single sheet of paper with a message that made her blood freeze. "You have 3 days to pay what your husband owed. Don't force us to be less gentle." 3 years. 3 long years since Marco had died in that car accident, and she thought she was finally managing to rebuild her life. The Petali d'Amore flower shop was all she had left of him, the dream they had built together on the narrow streets of Boston's Italian neighborhood. Now, apparently, even that was threatened. Elena closed her eyes and took a deep breath, trying to control the panic growing in her chest. The aroma of roses and lilies that filled her shop normally calmed her, but today, not even the familiar fragrance could chase away the fear consuming her. She knew Marco had gotten involved with dangerous people in the last months before he died, but she never imagined his debts would still pursue her after so much time. The door chime rang, making her startle. Elena quickly hid the letter under the counter and forced a smile when she saw Mrs. O'Brien, one of her most faithful customers, enter carrying a gust of cold air. "Good afternoon, dear," said the Irish lady, shaking snow from her navy blue coat. "I need something special for my grandchildren's wedding anniversary. 50 years together, can you believe it?" "How wonderful," Elena replied, her voice sounding steadier than she felt. "How about red roses with baby's breast? Classic and elegant." While preparing the arrangement, Elena tried to keep her hands busy to avoid thinking about the letter. But every movement seemed mechanical, every smile forced. Mrs. O'Brien, with the sharp intuition of someone who had raised 6 children, immediately noticed something was wrong. "Elena, dear, are you all right? You look pale." "I'm just a little tired," Elena lied, tying a golden ribbon around the bouquet. "It's been a busy week." Mrs. O'Brien paid for the flowers, but hesitated at the door. "You know you can talk to me about anything, don't you? This neighborhood takes care of its own." After the lady left, Elena allowed herself a moment of weakness. She leaned against the counter, feeling the weight of 3 years of grief, hard work, and now this new threat. She had sworn to herself that she would never depend on anyone again, that she would be strong enough to face anything alone. Marco had left, leaving her with debts she didn't even know existed, and she had fought to keep the shop running, to keep alive the memory of the love they had shared. The phone rang, interrupting her dark thoughts. It was Sophia, her best friend since childhood, who worked as a nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital. "Elena, did you see the news?" Sophia's voice was tense. "There was another shooting at the waterfront last night. The police are saying it was related to the families." Elena felt her stomach clench. The families were a euphemism that everyone in the North End knew well. Boston had always been disputed territory between different organizations, and in recent months, tension had increased considerably. "Sophia, I need to tell you something," Elena said, her voice almost a whisper. "I received a letter today." She told her friend about the threat, about Marco's debts that apparently still existed. Sophia remained silent for a long moment before responding. "Elena, you need to go to the police." "And say what? That my dead husband owed money to criminals? They'll want details I don't have. What if this only makes things worse?" "Then what are you going to do?" Elena looked around her shop, at the flowers she had arranged with such care, at the photos of her and Marco hanging on the wall behind the counter. "I don't know, but I won't let them destroy everything I've worked for." After hanging up, Elena decided to close the shop early. The winter sun was already setting, painting Boston's sky with shades of orange and pink that contrasted with the dirty snow on the sidewalks. She walked through the familiar streets of the North End, passing by the Old North Church and the Italian restaurants that filled the air with aromas of garlic and basil. That's when she saw him. He was standing outside Café Vittoria, a tall man wearing a dark gray overcoat that seemed to have been tailor-made. Even from a distance, there was something about him that drew attention. The way he positioned himself, as if he owned everything around him. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and when he turned slightly, Elena could see a strong, almost aristocratic profile. but it was his eyes that made her stop. Even from afar, she could feel the intensity of his gaze when he noticed her. For a moment that seemed to last an eternity, they stared at each other across the busy street. Elena felt something strange stir in her chest, a sensation she hadn't experienced in years. Then he began walking toward her. Elena felt panic take hold of her. She didn't know why, but every instinct in her body screamed that this man was dangerous. She turned quickly and began walking in the opposite direction, her low heels echoing on the irregular stones of the sidewalk. "Elena?" The voice made her stop immediately. It wasn't a shout or a call. It was almost a whisper, but loaded with an authority that made her name sound like a command. She turned slowly, her heart beating so hard she was sure he could hear it. The man was now only a few meters away. Up close, he was even more impressive and more intimidating. His eyes were such a dark blue they almost seemed black, and there was a small but visible scar on his left temple. He didn't smile, but he didn't seem threatening either. Instead, there was something almost respectful in his posture. "How do you know my name?" Elena asked, her voice coming out weaker than intended. "I know many things about you, Elena Rossi." He took a step closer, and she could smell the subtle aroma of his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made her head spin slightly. "I know you're in trouble." Elena's blood froze. Are you one of them? Did you come because of the debt?" To her surprise, he shook his head. "Not exactly. My name is Alessandro Torino, and I have a proposal for you." The name hit her like a punch to the stomach. Everyone in the North End knew that name, even if only whispered in cautious conversations. Alessandro Torino wasn't just a member of one of the families. He was the head of one of Boston's most powerful organizations, and now he was standing in front of her, speaking her name as if he had known her for years. "I don't want anything to do with you or your organization," Elena said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "Even if I can solve your problem?" Alessandro asked, tilting his head slightly. "Even if I can make those threats disappear forever?" Elena felt her resolve waver. "And what do you want in return?" An almost imperceptible smile touched Alessandro's lips. "A conversation. Just a conversation." The wind blew stronger, making Elena's dark hair dance around her face. She pulled her coat tighter around her body, but couldn't look away from Alessandro's penetrating eyes. There was something in them that made her feel as if he could see through all her defenses, all the walls she had built around her heart in the last 3 years. "Why would you help me?" she finally asked. "Because," Alessandro said, his voice low and controlled. "You shouldn't have to pay for a dead man's sins. And because," he hesitated for a moment as if weighing his words carefully, "because it's been a long time since I've seen someone fight so bravely to protect something they love." Elena felt tears sting her eyes, but held them back. She wouldn't cry in front of this man, no matter how gentle his words sounded. "And if I say no, then you'll say no, and I'll respect your decision." Alessandro took a step back, creating more space between them. "But Elena, you have 3 days, and the men who are after you aren't known for their patience or mercy." He took a card from the inner pocket of his overcoat and extended it to her. It was simple, elegant, with only a phone number engraved in golden letters. "If you change your mind, call me. Anytime." Elena took the card, her fingers briefly brushing against his. Even through the leather gloves he wore, she could feel the warmth of his skin, and an electric current seemed to pass between them. Alessandro must have felt it too, because his eyes narrowed slightly, studying her face with renewed intensity. "Good night, Elena," he said, his voice even lower than before. "Sleep well." He turned and began walking, his long and confident strides. Elena stood on the sidewalk, watching him disappear into the crowd of people heading to restaurants and cafes for dinner. Only when he was completely out of sight did she realize she was still holding the card. Her fingers gripped around it as if it were a lifeline. When she finally reached her small apartment above the flower shop, Elena sat in her tiny kitchen, looking at the card under the yellowish light of the ceiling lamp. She knew she should throw it away, that getting involved with Alessandro Torino would be like dancing with the devil. But she also knew he was right about one thing. She had only 3 days, and she had no other options. She thought about Marco, about how he had changed in the last months before dying. The late outings, the whispered phone conversations, the money that appeared and disappeared from their accounts without explanation. She had chosen not to ask questions. Trusting him as a wife should trust. Now that blind trust was costing everything she had worked for. Elena looked at the photo of them on the kitchen table, taken at their wedding 5 years ago. They looked so young, so full of hope. Marco was smiling, his eyes shining with love and promises of a bright future. She had loved that man with every fiber of her being, had sworn she would never love anyone the same way again. But now, sitting alone in her cold kitchen, with a threat hanging over her head and the memory of Alessandro Torino's dark blue eyes burning in her mind, Elena began to question everything she thought she knew about love, loyalty, and survival. The phone rang, making her startle. It was a number she didn't recognize. "Hello?" she answered hesitantly. "Elena." The voice was rough, threatening. "We hope you received our message today. Just to be clear, 3 days. Not a minute more." The line went dead before she could respond. Elena let the phone fall from her trembling hands, the sound echoing in the silence of her apartment. She looked again at Alessandro's card, and for the first time since Marco died, Elena Rossi seriously considered the possibility that maybe, just maybe, she couldn't face this alone. Outside, snow began to fall more heavily, covering Boston's streets with a white blanket that made everything look clean and new. But Elena knew that beneath that superficial beauty, the city hid dark secrets and dangers she was only beginning to understand. And somewhere in that same city, Alessandro Torino was thinking about her too, remembering the way she had looked at him, with fear, yes, but also with a strength he hadn't seen in a long time, a strength that intrigued him more than it should, considering who he was and the world he lived in. The night was just beginning, and both knew their lives were about to change forever. Dawn arrived gray and relentless over Boston, bringing with it a snowstorm that transformed the North End streets into a treacherous maze of ice and cutting wind. Elena had spent the entire night awake, alternating between looking at Alessandro Torino's card and the photo of her wedding with Marco. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Alessandro's face, those dark blue eyes that seemed to see through her soul, the way he had said her name like it was a prayer or a promise. At 6 in the morning, she gave up trying to sleep and went down to the flower shop. Work had always been her refuge, and today she desperately needed the normalcy that came with arranging flowers and serving customers. But when she opened the back door to receive the morning delivery of fresh flowers, she found something that made her blood freeze. All her flowers were dead, not just wilted or damaged by the cold, completely destroyed. Decapitated roses, trampled lilies, tulips torn from their stems. It was as if someone had entered during the night and systematically destroyed every flower in her shop. In the middle of the devastation, there was another envelope. With trembling hands, Elena opened it. The message was even more direct than the previous one. 2 days, next time it won't just be the flowers. Elena leaned against the wall, feeling her legs weaken. 3 years of hard work, of rebuilding her life piece by piece, and now everything was crumbling again. She looked around her destroyed shop, at the petals scattered on the floor like drops of blood in the snow, and felt anger grow in her chest, an anger she hadn't felt since the first days after Marco's death. She didn't deserve this. No matter what Marco had done, she didn't deserve to pay for his mistakes for the rest of her life. Elena took Alessandro's card from her coat pocket, and before she could change her mind, dialed the number. He answered on the first ring. "Elena." His voice was calm, as if he had been expecting her call. "Are you all right?" "No," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "They destroyed my shop. All my flowers are dead." There was silence on the other end of the line, but Elena could feel the tension growing. When Alessandro spoke again, his voice had a dangerous quality she hadn't noticed the night before. "Where are you now?" "At the shop. I don't know what to do." Don't touch anything. Don't clean anything. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Alessandro, Elena, the way he said her name, made her stop immediately. You called me. That means you're ready to hear my proposal. Elena looked again at the destruction around her, at the years of work reduced to trampled petals and broken stems. Yes, I'm ready. Exactly 20 minutes later, Elena heard the sound of cars stopping outside. She peeked through the window and saw 3 black SUVs parked in front of her shop. Alessandro got out of the middle vehicle, wearing a dark suit under a wool overcoat that seemed to cost more than Elena made in a month. He wasn't alone. 2 men accompanied him, both clearly bodyguards, their eyes constantly scanning the street for threats. When Alessandro entered the shop, his expression was controlled, but Elena could see the cold anger in his eyes as he observed the destruction. He walked slowly among the dead flowers, his gloved hands gently touching a decapitated rose. How long did it take you to build this? He asked, his voice low. 3 years, Elena replied, since Marco died. Alessandro turned to her, and for the first time, Elena saw something that looked like vulnerability in his eyes. He left you with debts you didn't know existed? Elena nodded, not trusting her voice. And you worked alone to keep this place running, to honor his memory, even after discovering he had lied to you. It wasn't a question, but Elena answered anyway. I loved him. I still love him. It doesn't matter what he did. Alessandro studied her face for a long moment. You're stronger than you imagine, Elena Rossi. One of his men approached and whispered something in his ear. Alessandro nodded and turned back to Elena. The men who did this work for Carmine Benedetto. He controls most of the loan operations in the North End. Alessandro paused, as if choosing his words carefully. Your husband owed him $200,000. Elena felt the world spin around her. 200,000? That's impossible. Marco would never have... He was gambling, Elena. Sports betting mainly. It started small, but the debts grew quickly. When he died, Benedetto decided to be generous. He waited 3 years to collect, with interest. Elena leaned against the counter, feeling nauseous. How much do I owe now? $500,000. The number hit her like a physical blow. Elena knew she could never gather that amount, not in 3 lifetimes, much less in 2 days. But, Alessandro continued, I can make this debt disappear. Elena stared at him, trying to process his words. How? Carmine Benedetto owes me favors. Many favors. 1 word from me, and he'll forget Marco Rossi ever existed. And what do you want in return? Elena asked, though part of her already knew she wouldn't like the answer. Alessandro walked up to her, stopping so close that Elena could feel the warmth of his body. I want you to come work for me. Work for you? Doing what? You'll continue being a florist. I have several legitimate businesses that need your services. Restaurants, hotels, corporate events. You'll earn more money in a month than you make here in a year. Elena frowned. That sounds too simple. What's the catch? Alessandro smiled, and for the first time since she met him, the smile seemed genuine. The catch is that you'll work exclusively for me, no one else, and you'll have to trust me completely. For how long? 1 year. Elena looked around her destroyed shop, thinking about her limited options. And after 1 year, you'll be free to do whatever you want. Your debt will be paid. You'll have enough money to start over wherever you want. And I'll guarantee that no one will ever bother you again. It was a tempting offer. Too tempting. Elena knew there was something Alessandro wasn't telling her, but she also knew she had no choice. There's one condition, she said finally. Alessandro raised an eyebrow. Which is? I want to know exactly what kind of events I'll be providing flowers for. I won't be part of anything illegal. You have my word that everything you do will be completely legal. Elena studied his face, looking for signs of deception, but Alessandro looked at her with an honesty that surprised her. And if I say no, then you'll say no, and I'll respect your decision. But Elena, he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Carmine Benedetto isn't known for his patience. If you don't accept my offer, I can't guarantee your safety. Elena closed her eyes, thinking about Marco, about how he had destroyed their lives with his lies and gambling. She thought about the 3 years she had spent fighting to keep alive the memory of a love that perhaps had never been as pure as she believed. And she thought about the man standing in front of her, offering her a way out that seemed too good to be true. I accept, she said, opening her eyes to meet Alessandro's intense gaze. But I have a question. What? Why are you doing this? Why me? Alessandro remained silent for a long moment, his eyes never leaving her face. When he finally spoke, his voice had a quality Elena couldn't identify. Because when I saw you last night, I saw someone who was fighting to protect something they loved, even when that love was destroying them, and because he hesitated as if revealing more than he intended. Because it's been a long time since I met someone who makes me want to be a better man. Elena felt her heart accelerate. There was something in the way he looked at her that made her feel like she was the only person in the world, as if he could see through all her defenses and still find her worthy of protection. Alessandro, she began, but he shook his head. Don't say anything now. You just agreed to work for me, and that's enough for now. He turned to one of his men. Marcus, arrange a cleaning crew for here. I want this place to be impeccable by the end of the day. Yes, sir. Alessandro turned back to Elena. Do you have somewhere to stay while they work here? I live in the apartment above the shop. Not today. Today you come with me. Elena felt a shiver of fear, or maybe it was something else. Where to? To see your new workplaces, and so I can explain exactly what I expect from you. An hour later, Elena found herself in the passenger seat of Alessandro's black Mercedes-Benz, watching Boston's familiar streets pass by the window. They had left the North End and were now driving toward Back Bay, one of the city's most elegant areas. Nervous? Alessandro asked, noticing how she fidgeted with her hands in her lap. A little, Elena admitted. I still can't believe I'm doing this. Regrets? Elena looked at him, studying his profile as he drove. There was something almost hypnotic about the way his hands gripped the steering wheel, the quiet confidence with which he navigated Boston's heavy traffic. No, she said finally. Scared but not regretful, Alessandro smiled. Good. Fear can be useful. It keeps you alert. They stopped in front of an elegant red brick building on Newbury Street. Alessandro got out and walked around the car to open Elena's door, a gesture that surprised her with its old-fashioned courtesy. This is Torino, he said, indicating the building. My main restaurant. Elena looked up, impressed. The restaurant occupied the first 2 floors of the building, with large windows offering views of the busy street. Even from outside, she could see it was a high-class establishment. Inside, the restaurant was even more impressive. Tables covered with immaculate white tablecloths, crystal chandeliers, and a mahogany bar that extended along the entire side wall. It was elegant without being pretentious, sophisticated but welcoming. It's beautiful, Elena said, genuinely impressed. Thank you. My mother helped decorate it. Alessandro guided her through the main dining room. She always said a restaurant should make people feel like they were dining at a dear friend's house. Elena noticed the way he spoke about his mother, with affection and respect. It was a side of him she hadn't expected to see. Is she still alive? Yes, she lives in Italy now but visits a few times a year. Alessandro stopped in front of a corner table, decorated with a simple but elegant arrangement of white roses and green foliage. This is the kind of work you'll do. Table arrangements, decorations for special events, private weddings. Elena examined the arrangement, immediately noticing several ways to improve it. May I? Alessandro nodded, and Elena began reorganizing the flowers, her hands working with the confidence of years of experience. In a few minutes, she had transformed the simple arrangement into something truly spectacular. Impressive, Alessandro said, and Elena could hear genuine admiration in his voice. You have a gift. It's just practice, Elena said, but felt warmth spread through her chest at the compliment. They spent the rest of the morning visiting Alessandro's other businesses, 2 smaller restaurants, a boutique hotel, and a private club that catered to Boston's elite. At each location, Elena could see opportunities for her work, ways to bring beauty and elegance through her floral creations. But she also began to notice other things. The way all the employees treated Alessandro with a mixture of respect and fear. How he knew everyone's name, asked about their families, but always maintained professional distance. And how, despite all his businesses seeming completely legitimate, there was an undercurrent of something darker. When they finally stopped for lunch at a small Italian cafe, Elena decided to ask the question that had been burning in her mind all morning. Alessandro, I know who you are. I know about your other life. How can I be sure I won't get involved in anything dangerous? Alessandro put down his fork and looked directly at her. Elena, I won't lie to you. My life is complicated, and yes, there are aspects of it that are dangerous. But I give you my word that the work you'll do for me will be completely separate from that part of my life. And if someone tries to use me to get to you, that won't happen. The certainty in his voice was absolute. You'll be under my protection. Anyone who tries to hurt you will have to deal with me first. Elena studied his face, looking for signs of deception, but found only sincerity. Why is this so important to you? Alessandro remained silent for a long moment, his fingers playing with his wine glass. My father built our business through fear and violence. He believed power came only through force. He looked at Elena, his dark blue eyes intense. I believe true power comes from loyalty, from respect, and you can't earn those things through fear. And you think you can earn my loyalty by saving me? Alessandro smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. No, Elena. I hope to earn your loyalty by proving I'm worthy of it. Elena felt something stir in her chest, an emotion she hadn't felt in 3 years. It was dangerous, she knew. This man represented everything she should avoid, but there was something about him, in the way he looked at her, how he spoke about honor and loyalty, that made her want to believe that maybe, just maybe, he was different from what she imagined. When do I start? She asked finally. Tomorrow. But first, there's something I need to do. Alessandro took out his phone and made a call. Elena couldn't understand everything he said, but she heard Carmine Benedetto's name several times. The conversation was brief, but when Alessandro hung up, there was cold satisfaction in his eyes. It's done, he said. Your debt no longer exists. Carmine Benedetto will never bother you again. Elena felt tears sting her eyes. Just like that. Just like that. For the first time in 3 days, Elena felt like she could breathe again. The weight that had been crushing her chest since she received the first threat had finally been lifted. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet, Alessandro said, his voice soft. You still have to work for me for a year. I can be a demanding boss. Elena laughed, and it was the first time she had laughed genuinely since Marco died. I can handle demanding. I've dealt with hysterical wedding clients. Alessandro laughed too, and the sound did something strange to Elena's stomach. It was a rich, genuine laugh that completely transformed his face. For a moment, he didn't look like the feared head of a criminal organization. He looked like just a man she was beginning to find dangerously attractive. When they left the cafe, the snow had stopped and the sun was trying to break through the clouds. Alessandro walked her back to his car, but hesitated before opening the door for her. Elena, he said, his voice more serious, I want you to know you can trust me. I know I have no reason to expect that considering who I am, but you can trust me. Elena stared at him, seeing something in his eyes that made her believe him, despite all her self-preservation instincts. I know, she said softly. And Alessandro, thank you for everything. He nodded but said nothing. Instead, he opened the car door for her and waited until she was safely inside before closing it. As they drove back to the North End, Elena looked out the window at Boston streets, thinking about how her life had completely changed in just 24 hours. Yesterday, she was a widow, struggling to keep alive a dead husband's dream. Today, she was working for one of the city's most powerful and dangerous men, and the scariest part of it all was that she was beginning to care about him. 3 weeks had passed since Elena began working for Alessandro, and she was beginning to understand that she had completely underestimated the complexity of the man who now controlled her professional life. Every morning, she arrived at the warehouse Alessandro had rented for her in the South End, a space 3 times larger than her old flower shop, equipped with industrial refrigerators, marble work tables, and all the tools a professional florist could dream of. On this February morning, Elena was preparing arrangements for an event at the Torino Hotel when she heard familiar footsteps echoing through the warehouse. She didn't need to look to know it was Alessandro. There was something distinctive about the way he walked, confident but controlled, like a predator who knew exactly where he was stepping. "Good morning, Elena." His deep voice echoed through the space. "Good morning," she replied, not looking up from the peach-colored roses she was arranging. In the past weeks, she had learned it was safer to maintain professional distance from Alessandro. Every time she looked at him directly, she felt something dangerous stir in her chest, something she shouldn't be feeling for a man like him. "How is the work progressing for tonight's event?" "Almost finished. 20 table arrangements, 6 large centerpieces, and the floral installation for the entrance arch." Elena finally looked at him and, as always, felt her heart accelerate slightly. Today he was wearing a dark gray suit that enhanced his eyes, and there was something different in his expression, a tension she hadn't seen before. "Excellent. There's a change of plans for tonight." Elena frowned. "What kind of change?" "You'll come with me to the event. I always go to events to supervise the flower setup. Not as an employee," Alessandro said, approaching her work table. "As my companion." Elena almost dropped the vase she was holding. "Your what?" "It's a charity event for Boston Children's Hospital. Very formal, many important people. I need someone by my side who isn't complicated." "Complicated?" Alessandro sighed, running his hand through his hair. "Elena, in my world, the women who normally accompany me to events like this have agendas. They want something from me or from my family. You're different. I work for you. Doesn't that automatically make me complicated?" "Not in the way I'm talking about." Alessandro leaned against the table, his eyes fixed on her face. "You don't want anything from me beyond what we've already agreed. You're not trying to impress me or manipulate me. You're genuine." Elena felt heat rise up her neck. "Alessandro, I don't think this is a good idea." "Why not?" "Because..." Elena hesitated, searching for the right words. "Because people will draw conclusions about us, about what we are to each other. And does that bother you?" The question caught her off guard. Did it bother her? The idea of being seen as Alessandro Torino's woman should terrify her. But instead she felt something that looked dangerously like excitement. "It should bother me," she said finally. Alessandro smiled, and Elena realized she had revealed more than she intended. "But it doesn't." "I didn't say that." "You didn't need to." Alessandro straightened up, his expression becoming more serious. "Elena, I won't lie to you. There are people at this event I need to impress, and appearing with a woman like you, intelligent, elegant, independent, will send the right message." "What message?" "That I'm a respectable businessman, not just..." He paused. "Not just what my father was." Elena studied his face, seeing something vulnerable in his eyes. "Is this important to you? These people's opinion?" "More than it should be," Alessandro admitted. "I'm trying to change how our family is seen in this city. I want us to be known for our legitimate businesses, our philanthropy, not for our history." Elena felt her heart tighten. There was something almost desperate in the way he spoke about change, about being better than his family legacy. "And you think I can help with that?" "I know you can." Alessandro took a step closer, and Elena could feel the warmth of his body. "You have a quality that's rare in my world, Elena. You're genuinely good. People feel that when they're around you." "Alessandro, please." The word came out as a whisper, and Elena realized it was the first time she had heard him beg for anything. "Just tonight. If you feel uncomfortable, we'll leave immediately." Elena looked at him, at the vulnerability he was trying to hide behind his mask of control. She knew she should say no, that getting more deeply involved in his life would be dangerous for both of them. But there was something in the way he looked at her, as if she were his salvation, that made her want to help him. "All right," she said finally, "but I don't have anything appropriate to wear." The smile that spread across Alessandro's face was like the sun rising. "Leave that to me." 2 hours later, Elena was standing in front of the mirror in her apartment, barely recognizing the woman staring back at her. The dress Alessandro had sent was a work of art, navy blue silk that flowed like water over her curves, with an elegant but modest neckline and a skirt that brushed her ankles. It came with high-heeled shoes that probably cost more than she made in a month, and a simple but clearly expensive pearl necklace. There was also a note written in Alessandro's elegant handwriting. "The color matches your eyes. A." Elena touched the necklace, feeling the weight of the pearls against her skin. It was beautiful, but it was also a reminder of how different Alessandro's world was from hers. She was about to enter a universe where dresses cost thousands of dollars and where every word, every gesture was carefully calculated. The doorbell rang exactly at 7 o'clock. Elena opened the door and felt her breath fail. Alessandro was standing in the hallway, wearing a tuxedo that seemed to have been made specifically for him. His hair was perfectly styled, and he held a small bouquet of white orchids. "You look..." Alessandro stopped mid-sentence, his eyes slowly traveling the length of her body. "You look stunning." Elena felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Thank you. You look very elegant, too." Alessandro extended the orchids to her, to match the dress. Elena took the flowers, her fingers briefly brushing against his. "They're beautiful. Thank you." "Ready?" Elena nodded, picking up her small handbag. When they left the building, she saw that Alessandro had traded his usual Mercedes for a black Bentley that gleamed under the streetlights. "Impressive," she said as he opened the passenger door for her. "It's important to make the right impression," Alessandro replied. But Elena could hear a note of discomfort in his voice, as if he didn't like the necessity of all this ostentation. The event was being held at the Fairmont Copley Plaza, one of Boston's most prestigious hotels. When they arrived, Elena was impressed by the number of expensive cars and elegantly dressed people filling the entrance. Photographers were strategically positioned, capturing the arrival of the most important guests. "Nervous?" Alessandro asked, noticing how she clasped her hands in her lap. "A little," Elena admitted. "I've never been to anything like this before. Just be yourself. That's all you need to do." When they got out of the car, Alessandro offered his arm to Elena, and she accepted it, feeling the strength of his muscles under the fine fabric of the tuxedo. They walked toward the entrance, and Elena could feel the curious looks from other guests. Some people clearly recognized Alessandro, and she saw whispers being exchanged as they passed. "They're talking about us," she murmured. "Let them talk," Alessandro replied, his voice calm. "You have nothing to hide." The hotel ballroom had been transformed into a winter garden, with Elena's floral creations serving as spectacular centerpieces. She felt genuine pride seeing how her flowers perfectly complemented the event's elegant decoration. "My God," she whispered. "It turned out even more beautiful than I imagined." "You did this," Alessandro said, and there was genuine pride in his voice. "Every person in this ballroom is admiring your work." They were greeted by an elegant, middle-aged woman Elena recognized from the social pages of newspapers. Margaret Whitman, one of Boston's most influential charity organizers. "Alessandro, darling." Margaret kissed both of Alessandro's cheeks. "How wonderful to see you here. And who is this adorable creature?" "Margaret, I'd like you to meet Elena Rossi." "Elena, this is Margaret Whitman." "Pleasure to meet you," Elena said, extending her hand. "The pleasure is mine, dear. Are you responsible for these stunning flowers?" "Yes, I am." "Extraordinary, simply extraordinary. Alessandro, where did you find this artist?" Elena felt Alessandro tense slightly beside her. "Elena has a flower shop in the North End. Her work is incomparable." "Well, I'll definitely need your services for my next event." Margaret turned to Elena. "Do you have a card?" Elena was about to respond that she didn't have business cards when Alessandro intervened smoothly. "Elena works exclusively for my establishments at the moment, but I'm sure we can come to an arrangement." Margaret laughed. Of course. Always the businessman, aren't you, Alessandro? After Margaret walked away, Elena turned to Alessandro. Why did you say that? About me working exclusively for you? Because it's true, that was our agreement. But she was offering additional work, extra money. Alessandro stopped walking and turned to her, his eyes serious. Elena, you don't need extra money. I pay you very well. It's not about the money. It's about independence. You are independent. Am I? Because sometimes it feels like you're trying to control me. Alessandro remained silent for a long moment, and Elena could see she had touched something sensitive. You're right, he said finally. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel controlled. Elena studied his face, seeing genuine sincerity in his eyes. Why is this so difficult for you? Letting people have their own choices? Because, Alessandro said, his voice low, in my world, when you care about someone, you protect them, even if they don't want to be protected. His words hit her like lightning. You care about me? Alessandro stared at her, and Elena could see a battle happening in his eyes. More than I should, he finally admitted. Before Elena could respond, they were interrupted by a tall, distinguished man who approached with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Alessandro Torino, the man said, extending his hand. Robert Sinclair, I've heard a lot about you. Alessandro shook the man's hand, but Elena could feel the tension in his body. Mr. Sinclair, what a pleasure to finally meet you. And this must be the famous Elena Rossi. I heard you're responsible for these magnificent flowers. Elena smiled politely. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Actually, Sinclair continued, his eyes moving between Elena and Alessandro. I'm curious about the nature of your professional relationship. It must be interesting to work so intimately with Mr. Torino. Elena felt Alessandro tense even more beside her, and she realized there was something more happening in this conversation than it appeared. My relationship with Alessandro is strictly professional, she said calmly. He appreciates quality in his businesses, and I provide the best floral arrangements in the city. Of course, Sinclair said, but his smile had a predatory quality. It's just that, well, considering the Torino family's reputation, some people might question the wisdom of associating so intimately with them. The silence that followed was tense. Elena could feel anger radiating from Alessandro, but his expression remained perfectly controlled. Mr. Sinclair, Alessandro said, his voice dangerously calm, I suggest you be very careful with your next words. Oh, I meant no offense, Sinclair said, but was clearly enjoying the tension he had created. It's just that a young and attractive woman like Miss Rossi should be aware of the risks of associating with certain families. Elena felt anger grow in her chest. This man was clearly trying to intimidate her, and she wasn't going to allow it. Mr. Sinclair, she said, her voice cold but polite, I appreciate your concern, but I can assure you I'm perfectly capable of making my own decisions about who I choose to work with. And I can say with confidence that Alessandro Torino is one of the most honorable men I've ever met. Sinclair blinked, clearly surprised by her direct response. Well, of course, just trying to be helpful. Your help isn't necessary, Alessandro said, his voice cutting. Now, if you'll excuse us, there are other people we'd like to greet. Alessandro placed his hand on Elena's back and guided her away from Sinclair. When they were out of earshot, he turned to her. Thank you, he said simply. For what? For defending me. You didn't need to do that. Elena looked at him, seeing something vulnerable in his eyes. Yes, I did. He was being an idiot, and I wasn't going to stand there and let him talk to you that way. Alessandro smiled, and it was a smile different from any she had seen before. Warm, genuine, and completely without defenses. You're extraordinary, Elena Rossi. I'm just being myself. Exactly. The rest of the night passed in a blur of polite conversations, exquisite food, and soft music. Elena found herself genuinely enjoying Alessandro's company, seeing a side of him that was charming, intelligent, and surprisingly funny. He introduced her to several important people, always with genuine pride in his voice when he spoke about her work. But it was during the dance that everything changed. The band had started playing a slow song, and Alessandro extended his hand to her. "Dance with me." Elena hesitated. Dancing with him would be crossing a line she had been carefully avoiding. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something that made her forget all her reservations. Yes, Alessandro led her to the dance floor and gently pulled her into his arms. Elena felt like she was melting when he held her against his body, one hand on her waist, the other delicately holding her hand. They moved together as if they had danced 1,000 times before, their bodies fitting perfectly. "Elena," Alessandro murmured against her ear, his voice hoarse. "Yes? I need to tell you something." Elena tilted her head back to look into his eyes. "What?" "I'm falling in love with you." The words hit her like lightning, making her heart stop for a moment before beginning to beat uncontrollably. "Alessandro, I know I shouldn't. I know this complicates everything, but I can't pretend anymore that what I feel for you is just professional." Elena looked into his eyes, seeing the truth there, the vulnerability he was offering her. Part of her wanted to run, wanted to protect herself from the intensity of what she was feeling. But a bigger part of her, a part that had been asleep since Marco's death, wanted to surrender completely to this dangerous and fascinating man. "I'm falling in love with you too," she whispered. Alessandro stopped dancing, his eyes searching her face as if trying to memorize every detail. "Are you sure?" "I'm scared," Elena admitted. "I'm scared of what this means, of what might happen. But yes, I'm sure." Alessandro bent his head and kissed her, right there in the middle of the dance floor, in front of hundreds of people. It was a soft, reverent kiss, full of promises and possibilities. When they separated, Elena felt as if the world had changed around her. "Elena," Alessandro whispered against her lips. "Yes, I'm going to protect you. No matter what happens, I'm going to protect you." Elena looked into his eyes and saw the truth there, the iron determination that defined who he was. And for the first time since Marco died, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could love again. But as they danced, lost in each other, neither of them noticed Robert Sinclair watching them from across the ballroom, a cruel smile playing on his lips as he discreetly took photos with his phone. The night was just beginning, and the consequences of their public confession of love would soon become apparent in ways neither of them could have predicted. The next morning arrived with a snowstorm that transformed Boston into a silent, white world. But Elena barely noticed the weather as she prepared coffee in her kitchen. She hadn't slept well. Every time she closed her eyes, she relived the moment when Alessandro had confessed his feelings, the kiss that had sealed something irreversible between them. Her hands still trembled slightly when she remembered the intensity in his eyes, the way he had said her name like a promise. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was Sophia, and her voice was tense with concern. "Elena, did you see the newspaper today?" "No. Why?" Elena felt a chill in her stomach. "What happened?" "There are photos of you with Alessandro Torino in the Herald Society section. You're dancing and, Elena, you're kissing." Elena dropped her coffee cup, the hot liquid spilling across her kitchen floor. "What?" "The headline says, 'The Mafia Prince finds his princess.' Elena, they're speculating about you two, about your relationship. There's even a photo of the destroyed flower shop and mention of Marco's debts." Elena leaned against the counter, feeling the world spin around her. "How do they know about Marco's debts?" "I don't know, but Elena, this is dangerous. If people know you're involved with Alessandro, you become a target." Before Elena could respond, she heard the sound of cars stopping outside, and she ran to the window and saw 3 black SUVs parked on the street, exactly like the day she met Alessandro. But this time, there was something different in the urgency with which the men got out of the vehicles. "Sophia, I have to hang up. Alessandro is here." "Elena, be careful." Elena hung up and ran to open the door before Alessandro could knock. When she saw him, her heart clenched. He was wearing dark jeans and a wool sweater, his hair slightly disheveled as if he had left home in a hurry. But it was his eyes that alarmed her. There was a cold fury in them she had never seen before. "Did you see?" he asked without preamble. Sophia told me. Alessandro, how did they... Robert Sinclair. The way he said the name made Elena shiver. He photographed us last night and sold the photos to the Herald. But that's not the worst part. Alessandro entered the apartment, closing the door behind him. Elena could see the tension in every line of his body, the way his hands clenched into fists. What else? They didn't just publish the photos. They did a complete investigation on you, on Marco, on the debts. Alessandro turned to her, his eyes intense. Elena, they know everything. Elena felt her legs weaken. Everything what? About Carmine Benedetto. About how I made your debt disappear. About our agreement. Alessandro ran his hands through his hair. Someone leaked information, and now you're at the center of a storm I never wanted you to face. Elena sat heavily on the sofa, trying to process the implications. What does this mean? It means you're no longer just a florist who works for me. In the world's eyes, you're my woman, and that makes you a target for anyone who wants to get to me. As if to emphasize his point, Elena's phone rang. She looked at the screen and saw an unknown number. Don't answer, Alessandro said quickly. But Elena had already answered. Hello? Elena Rossi? The voice was rough, threatening. You made a very stupid choice, dear. Torino can't protect you forever. The line went dead. Elena dropped the phone, her hands trembling. Alessandro was by her side in seconds, picking up the phone and checking the number. His expression became even darker. We're leaving, now. Where to? To a safe place. Pack a bag with essentials, you have 5 minutes. Elena stood up but hesitated. Alessandro, I can't just disappear. I have responsibilities, commitments. Elena, the way he said her name made her stop. There are 3 cars full of my men outside because I received information that there's a contract on you. Someone put a price on your head, and it's not small. Elena's blood froze. A contract? $50,000 for anyone who brings you alive. $100,000 if you're intact. Elena felt nausea rise in her throat. Who would do this? I have my suspicions, but now isn't the time to investigate. Now is the time to keep you alive. Elena nodded, the reality of the situation finally sinking in. She ran to the bedroom and threw clothes into a suitcase, her hands trembling as she tried to think of what was essential. When she returned to the living room, Alessandro was speaking quietly on his phone, his voice tense. Yes, the lake house. No one else knows about it. Understood. We'll be there in 2 hours. He hung up and turned to Elena. Ready? Elena looked around her small apartment, at the photos of Marco on the side table, at the life she had carefully built over the last 3 years. Can I come back? Eventually, when it's safe. And when will that be? Alessandro hesitated. I don't know. The brutal honesty of his answer hit her like a punch. Elena realized that by falling in love with Alessandro, she had inadvertently destroyed the peaceful life she had fought so hard to build. I'm sorry, Alessandro said softly, as if he could read her thoughts. I never wanted this to happen to you. Elena looked at him, seeing genuine guilt in his eyes. It's not your fault. I made my choice last night when I said I was falling in love with you. Do you regret it? The question hung in the air between them. Elena thought about everything she had lost, everything she was losing. But then she looked at Alessandro, at the way he was willing to risk everything to protect her, at the vulnerability he showed only to her, and knew her answer. No, she said firmly. I don't regret it. Alessandro approached her, cupping his hands around her face. Elena, I promise I'll fix this. I'll find who's behind this and make them pay. And if you can't, I will. The certainty in his voice was absolute. Because I can't live in a world where you're not safe. They left the apartment together, Alessandro keeping a protective hand on her back as he guided her to the car. Elena noticed how his men were strategically positioned, their eyes constantly scanning the area for threats. It was like being in the middle of an action movie, except it was her real life that was in danger. During the trip, Alessandro explained where they were going, an isolated house on a lake in the Massachusetts countryside, property of his family for decades. It was a place few knew about, where she would be safe while he dealt with the situation. How long do you think this will take? Elena asked as she watched the snowy landscape pass by the window. I don't know. Days, maybe weeks. And my work? The arrangements for your restaurants. I have other suppliers who can cover temporarily. Your job will be waiting when you return. Elena nodded, but part of her wondered if she would ever return to normal life. It seemed that by crossing the line from professional to personal with Alessandro, she had entered a world from which she might never escape. The lake house was more impressive than Elena had imagined. Situated on a property of several acres, it was a stone and wood construction that seemed to have come out of an architecture magazine. Large windows offered breathtaking views of the frozen lake, and there was a sense of peaceful isolation that contrasted dramatically with the tension of recent days. "It's beautiful," Elena said, as Alessandro guided her inside. "My grandmother used to come here every summer," Alessandro explained, turning on the heating. "She said it was the only place where she could forget who we were, what we were." Elena looked around the living room, noticing the family photos on the walls, the comfortable furniture that spoke of years of loving use. "Did you come here as a child?" "Yes. Those were some of my best moments." Alessandro turned to her, his eyes soft. "I wanted to bring you here under different circumstances, like on a romantic date, something like that." Elena smiled despite everything. "Well, technically it's still a date, just with more drama than usual." Alessandro laughed, and the sound relieved some of the tension in the air. "You're incredible, you know that? Most people would be hysterical right now." "Who says I'm not hysterical inside?" "Because I can see it in your eyes. You're scared, but you're not broken. You're stronger than you imagine." Elena approached him, placing her hands on his chest. "Alessandro, I need to know something." "What?" "Last night when you said you were falling in love with me, did you mean it? Or was it just the moment, the music, the atmosphere?" Alessandro covered her hands with his. "Elena, I've never said those words to anyone before, not even to women I've been with for years. When I said I was falling in love with you, I meant every word, even knowing it would complicate everything, especially knowing that." Alessandro leaned down and kissed her forehead softly. "You're worth any complication." Elena felt tears sting her eyes. "I'm scared, Alessandro." "Of what?" "That this is too good to be true, that something will go wrong and I'll lose you too." Alessandro pulled her into his arms, holding her firmly against his chest. "You won't lose me, I promise." "You can't promise that. Not in your world." "Then I'll change my world." The determination in his voice made her look at him. "Elena, I was serious last night about wanting to be a better man. You make me want to be better. If that means leaving certain parts of my life behind, then that's what I'll do." "Alessandro, you can't just leave the Mafia." "I can try. I can start transferring more responsibilities to others. Focus on the legitimate businesses. It won't be easy, and it won't be quick, but I can try." Elena studied his face, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. "You would do that? For me, I would do anything for you." They spent the rest of the day exploring the house, Alessandro showing Elena the bedrooms, the library full of old books, the rustic but well-equipped kitchen. It was strange being alone with him in such an intimate environment, away from the pressures and expectations of the outside world. In the evening, they cooked together, a simple meal of pasta and sauce that Alessandro prepared with the skill of someone who had learned from his Italian grandmother. Elena watched his hands as he worked, noticing how they were strong but gentle, capable of violence, but also of tenderness. "You're thinking about something," Alessandro observed, noticing her gaze. "I'm thinking about how different you are from what I expected." "Different how?" "More human, more normal." Elena hesitated. "I guess I expected you to be more like the mafiosos in movies. Cold, calculating, emotionless." Alessandro smiled sadly. "Sometimes I have to be those things, but not with you. With you, I can just be Alessandro." "And who is just Alessandro?" Alessandro stopped stirring the sauce and turned to her. "A man who lost his mother too young, who was forced to grow up too fast, who inherited a legacy he never wanted but didn't know how to escape." He paused. "A man who thought he would never be able to love someone enough to want to change until he met you." Elena felt her heart tighten. Alessandro, I know it's a lot. Too fast. I know you're still mourning Marco, that you swore never to love again. But Elena, what I feel for you is different from anything I've ever experienced. Elena approached him, placing her hands on his face. I feel it too, and it terrifies me. Why? Because when I loved Marco, I thought I knew what love was. But what I feel for you, it's more intense, more consuming. It's like you've awakened a part of me I didn't even know existed. Alessandro kissed her then, a deep and desperate kiss that spoke of need and desire and fear of losing something precious. When they separated, both were breathing heavily. Elena, Alessandro whispered against her lips. I love you. The words hit her like lightning. Not I'm falling in love. I love you. Present, definitive, irrevocable. I love you too, she whispered back. And as she said the words, she felt like she was jumping off a cliff without knowing if there was a safety net waiting for her. Alessandro picked her up and carried her to the master bedroom, where a fireplace crackled softly and moonlight poured through the large windows. He placed her gently on the bed, his eyes never leaving hers. Are you sure? He asked, his voice hoarse. I'm sure. What happened next was a revelation for Elena. Alessandro loved her with a tenderness that contrasted with his dangerous reputation, his hands exploring her body as if she were something precious and fragile. Every touch, every kiss, every whisper of her name was a promise, a declaration of devotion that went beyond words. Afterward, they lay intertwined, watching shadows dance on the ceiling. Elena traced lazy circles on Alessandro's chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. Alessandro? What's going to happen to us? Alessandro tightened his arms around her. I don't know, but I know I'll fight for us, I'll fight for you. And if it's not enough, then at least we'll have had this. This moment, this night. No one can take that away from us. Elena snuggled closer to him, trying to memorize the feeling of being in his arms, the smell of his skin, the sound of his breathing, because deep in her heart, she knew the forces aligning against them were powerful, and that their newly discovered happiness was balanced on the edge of a blade. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the world in a blanket of deceptive purity. And in Boston, dangerous men were making plans that would soon test the strength of the love Elena and Alessandro had found in each other. The storm was just beginning. 3 days of peace at the lake house were all Elena and Alessandro had before the real world found them again. Elena woke on the morning of the 4th day to the sound of helicopters flying over the property, their blades cutting through the morning air like a threatening symphony. Alessandro was already up, wearing jeans and a shirt, speaking urgently on his phone. How many? He asked, his voice tense. Understood. Hold position until I give the signal. Elena sat up in bed, pulling the sheet around her body. What's happening? Alessandro hung up and turned to her, his eyes dark. They found us. There are at least 20 men surrounding the property. Who are they? A combination. Some work for rival families who want to weaken me. Others are mercenaries hired by someone with a lot of money and a thirst for revenge. Alessandro approached the bed, sitting beside her. Elena, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Elena nodded, her heart beating frantically. There's a tunnel that leads from this house's cellar to a cabin about 1 kilometer away. My grandfather built it during Prohibition. Marcus is waiting there with a car. He'll take you to a private airport and you'll fly to Italy. Italy? Alessandro, I can't. You can and will. His voice was firm, but Elena could see desperation in his eyes. My mother has a house in Tuscany. You'll stay there until this is over. And you? Alessandro hesitated. I'm going to resolve this, once and for all. Elena felt tears burn her eyes. You're talking like you're saying goodbye to me. It's not goodbye. It's a promise that I'll find you. Alessandro, don't leave me. We can run away together, start a new life somewhere. Elena. He cupped his hands around her face, forcing her to look into his eyes. If I run now, they'll never stop chasing us. You'll never be safe. I have to face this here. Now. Elena knew he was right, But that didn't make the separation any less painful. What if something happens to you? Then you'll live. You'll build a new life, find happiness again. I don't want a new life without you. Alessandro kissed her then, a desperate kiss full of love. I love you, Elena Rossi. Remember that no matter what happens. I love you too. The sound of gunshots echoed from outside, making both of them startle. Alessandro quickly got up, taking a pistol from a dresser drawer. Time to go. Elena dressed quickly, her hands trembling as she put on jeans and a sweater. Alessandro guided her through the house to the cellar, where he moved several wine bottles to reveal a hidden door. The tunnel is narrow but safe. Keep going straight until you see light. Marcus will be waiting. Elena turned to him, memorizing his face. Alessandro, promise me something. Anything. Promise you'll fight to come back to me. That you won't do anything heroic and stupid. Alessandro smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. I promise I'll do everything I can to come back to you. It wasn't exactly the promise she wanted, but Elena knew it was all he could give. She kissed him one last time, pouring all her love and fear into the kiss. Go, Alessandro whispered against her lips. Now! Elena entered the tunnel, looking back one last time to see Alessandro closing the door behind her. Then she ran, her tears falling freely as she followed the narrow, dark path that would take her away from the man she loved. The tunnel seemed to stretch forever, but finally Elena saw light ahead. She emerged in a small cabin where Marcus, one of Alessandro's trusted men, was waiting with a running car. Miss Rossi, we need to go, now! Elena got into the car, and they sped away at high speed. Through the rear window, she could see smoke rising from the direction of the lake house. The sound of gunshots continued echoing through the trees. Will he be okay? She asked Marcus. If anyone can get out of this situation, it's Mr. Torino, Marcus replied. But Elena could hear worry in his voice. The flight to Italy was a blur of anxiety and tears. Elena couldn't stop thinking about Alessandro, imagining the worst scenarios. When she finally arrived at Alessandro's mother's house in Tuscany, she was emotionally and physically exhausted. Maria Torino was an elegant woman of 60, with the same dark blue eyes as her son. She received Elena with open arms, as if she knew exactly who she was and why she was there. My son told me about you, Maria said in English with an Italian accent. He said you were special. Is he okay? Have you heard anything? Maria shook her head. Not yet. But Alessandro is strong like his father. He'll come back to you. The days that followed were agony of waiting. Elena tried to keep busy helping Maria in her garden, learning to cook traditional Italian dishes, but her mind was always in Boston with Alessandro. Every phone ring made her heart race, hoping for news. It was on the 5th night that the phone finally rang. Maria answered, speaking rapidly in Italian. Elena watched the older woman's face, trying to decipher her expressions. When Maria hung up, there were tears in her eyes. He's alive, Maria said, and Elena felt her knees weaken with relief. But he's hurt. He's in the hospital. I need to go back. No, it's not safe yet. But he sent a message for you. Maria handed Elena a paper with Alessandro's familiar handwriting. My love, I'm alive and thinking of you every moment. The war is over, but the cleanup will take time. Be patient. I'll come for you soon. All my love, A. Elena held the letter against her chest, feeling like she could breathe again for the first time in days. 2 weeks later, Elena was in Maria's garden when she heard the sound of a car coming up the dirt road. Her heart began beating faster when she recognized the figure getting out of the vehicle. Alessandro. He was thinner, there was a new scar on his left cheek, and he limped slightly. But he was alive. He was there, and he was looking at her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. Elena ran to him, and Alessandro caught her in his arms, spinning her in the air despite his injuries. When he put her down, both were crying. You came back, Elena whispered, touching his face as if she needed to make sure he was real. I promised I would. What happened? How did you... Later, Alessandro said, kissing her deeply. Now I just want to hold you. That night, after Maria discreetly retired to give them privacy, Alessandro told Elena everything that had happened. The battle at the lake house had lasted hours, but in the end, his men had prevailed. More importantly, they had captured Robert Sinclair, who had been the mastermind behind the entire conspiracy. Sinclair was working with a rival family from New York, Alessandro explained. They wanted to weaken me, and using you against me seemed like the perfect way to do it. And now? Now they know that messing with me or anyone I love has consequences. The coldness in his voice made Elena shiver. Sinclair won't bother anyone again. Elena didn't ask what that meant. Some things were better not to know. Alessandro, what does this mean for us? Can we go back to Boston? Alessandro took her hands, his thumbs tracing gentle circles on her palms. Elena, I have something to ask you. He knelt then, taking a small velvet box from his pocket. Elena gasped, her hands flying to cover her mouth. Elena Rossi, you've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. You made me want to be a better man, gave me a reason to fight for a different future. He opened the box, revealing a simple but stunning diamond ring. Will you marry me? Elena looked at the man kneeling in front of her, this dangerous and powerful man who was offering his heart with the vulnerability of a child. She thought about Marco, about how she had sworn never to love again. But what she felt for Alessandro was different, deeper, truer, more complete. Yes, she whispered, and then louder. Yes, I'll marry you. Alessandro slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her. And Elena knew she had found her true home, not in a place, but in the arms of this man who loved her enough to change his entire world. The morning sun filtered through the linen curtains of the villa in Tuscany, where Elena and Alessandro had decided to make their main home. Elena woke slowly, feeling her husband's arm around her waist, his soft breathing against her neck. 2 years of marriage, and she still felt butterflies in her stomach every time she woke up beside him. Good morning, Mrs. Torino, Alessandro murmured against her skin, his voice hoarse with sleep. Good morning, Mr. Torino. Alessandro turned to kiss her, and Elena melted into his arms as she always did. Marriage had changed many things between them, but the intensity of their passion remained unchanged. What time does Marcus arrive? Elena asked, remembering the important meeting Alessandro had scheduled for that morning. In an hour. But first, Alessandro slid his hand over Elena's slightly rounded belly. How is our little one today? Elena smiled, placing her hand over his. Active. I think it's going to be a fighter like the father, or a fighter like the mother. They still didn't know the baby's sex. They wanted it to be a surprise, but Elena secretly hoped it would be a girl, a little princess Alessandro could spoil and protect. The pregnancy had been a wonderful surprise, discovered only 3 months ago. Alessandro had been so emotional he had cried, something Elena never thought she would see. Since then, he had become even more protective, if that were possible. Alessandro, Elena said, her voice becoming more serious. Are you sure about the decision you're going to announce today? Alessandro had spent the last 2 years gradually distancing himself from the darker aspects of the family business, transferring responsibilities to others and focusing on legitimate enterprises. Today, he would officially announce his complete withdrawal from criminal operations. I'm sure, he said firmly, our child won't grow up with the shadow I carried. He or she will have a father who can be proudly presented to the world. Elena kissed his forehead. I love you for that, for choosing our family over everything else. It was the easiest choice I ever made. Later that morning, Elena was in her studio, a beautiful space Alessandro had built for her at the villa, working on arrangements for the local restaurant, when she heard voices coming from Alessandro's office. The meeting had begun. She knew it wouldn't be easy for Alessandro to completely leave the world he had grown up in. There would be resistance, maybe even threats, but she also knew he was strong enough to face anything, especially now that he had a family to protect. An hour later, Alessandro appeared in her studio, a triumphant smile on his face. It's done, he announced. Officially, Alessandro Torino is now just a respectable businessman. Elena stood up and ran into his arms. How do you feel? Free, Alessandro said, spinning her carefully. For the first time in my life, I feel completely free. That night, they dined on the terrace overlooking the Tuscan hills, the sunset painting the sky with shades of gold and pink. Elena watched her husband as he talked about his plans to expand the restaurant chain, about the charity foundation he wanted to establish, about the future they were building together. "Do you regret anything?" she asked when he paused. "Waiting so long to meet you," Alessandro replied without hesitation. "Wasting so many years living only halfway. And I regret swearing never to love again," Elena said, placing her hand on her belly. "Because if I hadn't broken that promise, I never would have found true love." Alessandro stood up and knelt beside her chair, placing his hands on her belly. "I love you, Elena. I love you and our baby more than life. We love you too." As the stars began to appear in the Tuscan sky, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought her here. It had started with a threat, with fear and desperation, but it had transformed into something beautiful, a love that had changed them both, that had given Alessandro the strength to leave his dark past behind, and Elena the courage to love again. She thought about Marco, about how she had loved his memory for so long, but now she understood there was a difference between loving a memory and loving a living, breathing, imperfect, but real man. Alessandro was her present and her future, and she couldn't wait to see what kind of father he would be, what kind of life they would build together. "Elena?" Alessandro said softly. "Yes, thank you." "For what?" "For saving me, for showing me I could be more than my name, more than my history." Elena smiled, kissing him softly. "We saved each other." And as the moon rose over the hills of Tuscany, Elena Torino knew she had found her happy ending, not the kind of fairy tale she had dreamed of when young, but something better, something real, complicated, imperfect, and absolutely perfect at the same time. Love had won, as it always should, and for the first time since Marco died, Elena was truly at peace.